What's going on, everybody? So tonight I want to do a comparison video between the New Balance More V5 and the older More V4 there on your screen. I want to go top to bottom, some of the differences that I'm seeing, and boy, there are a lot. So first up, for the More V5, you are going to see the specs on your screen compared to the More V4. It looks like there's a little bit more stack height in the More V5 compared to the More V4, again on your screen. The drop is the same at 4 millimeters. Now, just in the hand, it does feel like they're comparable in weight. If anything, I would say that the More V4 does feel a little lighter in the hand, but just taking a look at some of the differences here, structurally, the V5 seems a little bit more, well, like overbuilt, if you will, compared to the more stripped down version of the More V4. What's interesting, I put a lot of miles on this shoe right here, and it felt pretty bulky whenever I picked it up last year, but now we have the V5 in the house, and man, it's wild how much these things have grown. So let's actually take a look at the laces first. So I'm taking a look at the laces here, and just feeling the laces of the V5, they feel pretty pillowy, almost like a jersey knit t-shirt. And then having a feel of the More V4, it's a little bit more stretchy, but it's also a bit more scratchy. And as far as whenever it gets pulled tight, it doesn't really lose its shape on the V5. And then on the V4, it also retains its shape, which is important whenever we're talking about things like going over the top of the foot. And especially during some of those longer runs, laces actually can make a difference. And speaking of the top of the foot, taking a look at the tongue of the More V5, like I said before, this is probably like the squishy tongue of the year. 2024 is the year of the More V5 as far as this tongue. Now, taking a look how ventilated and how many more holes there are of the tongue of the V5 as opposed to the V4. And this is another thing, and I think I remember talking about this in the video last year whenever I made this, is that there's not really too much in terms of the tongue whenever you are looking to, pull it up and get a little bit more cinch in kind of the toe box towards you, that it's just, kind of stuck in there and there's not much protrusion. There's a lot more protrusion on the V5, and that can make a difference for a lot of people, especially if you have kind of pain that tends to happen. Say there's folks with little bony bumps on the top of their foot, that this can make a difference. And then also look at the spacing of the V4 compared to the V5 as far as the lacing and the eyelet chain. Now, of course, the eyelet chain is this center division here where the two pieces of the upper come together and are joined by the laces. On the V5, they are widely spaced, giving you what I would consider a lot more in terms of adaptability for that versus the V4, which these are almost these are almost touching. And I do have that issue with some of my shoes. The Asics Nova Blast 3, for example, those pieces of material are touching. It doesn't really feel bad, but if I ever wanted to change things, I don't have that much opportunity. Also, you see that whenever this is happening, you get a bunching of the material and a bulging of the material here, just behind the toe box, which that can be a little bit annoying. I don't remember it feeling bad or anything. It's just kind of unsightly, and this is nice and buttery smooth right here. Coming around to kind of the heel collar, like I said in the previous video of the V5, very plush, very, very luxurious feeling. There's almost this there's almost this ridge-like material, but very, very, very soft and almost not slick, but it's not very abrasive feeling. And I didn't have a lot of slipping whenever I was walking around in it the other day. On the medial, lateral, posterior side, there is quite a bit of pillowy squishness, as well as the tongue here. And so you get a 360 pillow against your foot. And then over here on the V4, kind of the same thing. It does have a medial and lateral, posterior feel similar to the V5, but it's a lot more separate from the rest of the material as far as the posterior of the shoe. I'm not sure if you can see, but there's really, it feels like a tube almost. It's a soft material, but it's a tube-like feeling, and then it just stops, and then there's just, kind of almost a a dense material, a non-bendable material, almost like a plastic underneath, which I don't remember it being an issue as far as how it felt on my foot. Okay, heel tab. Heel tab on the More versus the More V4. It has changed in shape. This is a little bit more squared off, while this is a little bit more rounded. And then looking this way, you can kind of see there's a little bit more structure in terms of that, and this is quite flat. Kind of getting in here and where that heel bone does go into the back of the shoe and make contact and then go into the little elf ear, if you will. There is, you know, quite a bit of padding just above the heel bone. And then over here, it's just a lot more widely distributed as far as that padding. You know, you have the padding that goes above the heel bone, but again, it just seems to be more seamless in transition for the medial and lateral aspects of the padding that surrounds the top of that heel. And I remember putting this on and it felt like it just, you know, cradled you 100%. Now let's look at the little insert that comes with the shoe. So this is the More V5, More V4 right here in my right hand, left side of your screen. It looks to be about the same as far as thickness goes. Because I've run in this one a lot more, it's gonna look different. And I don't see any appreciable differences. Well, maybe actually on the V5, it's a little bit deeper as far as kind of these, the medial wing and then the lateral wing here. It's a little bit more pronounced on the V5 on the lateral or outside piece. I am going to weigh these shoes, so I'm going to put the liner back in. This is a huge difference as far as the upper of the shoe. There on your screen, you can kind of see what's going on. And we're going to start with the toe box. Look at the difference in the toe box here on on the V5 and then the V4. Huge, huge, huge difference. You know, the V5 is almost reminiscent of the Hoka Bondi 7, I want to say, as far as like the vents here on the top. A lot more visibility of the ventilation on the V5 compared to the V4. And then as far as kind of the toe box goes, it looks to be about the same. And then taking a look down the middle, you have a lot more of a squared off version here, similar to the back, versus the more pointy piece of the V4. One more thing about the upper, the actual feeling of the upper on the V5 is a little bit more scratchy than the V4. The V4 has a little bit more of a stretch to it, kind of getting my hand in here too. It just feels a little bit softer to the hand, maybe a little bit more forgiving around the top of the toes, but kind of in the middle of the foot on the top, it's a little bit more segmented, meaning there's definitely a difference between the tongue and then the sidebars of the midfoot, and it feels a little bit scratchy on the midfoot and not so scratchy on the toes. I can definitely feel the difference between the tongue and the inside of the shoe around the midfoot. It's like there's just not enough material to the tongue itself. Versus the V5, it feels a little bit more scratchy, you know, to the hand on the top of the toes, but you know, that padding and luxuriousness, if you will, is kind of continued throughout the midfoot, and the tongue just feels wider and just a little bit more incorporated into the overall flow of the shoe. So a little bit softer on the V4 and a little bit less softer on the V5. But the V5 just feels a little bit more integrated, if you will, for the shoe. All right, moving into the side, you still have these wings of the material from the midsole that kind of, you know, are working with the back of your foot, and it's about the same here. Now, I did notice on the V5 how the wings want to go all the way down to the foot, the toe piece of the shoe. I wonder if it's the same with the V4. No, it's not. Actually, it stops about 3/4 of the way as far as these wings, I'm calling them, of the midsole that kind of go up and around and act as a shoulder. And you know, this is not the actual stack height of the shoe. This, where my finger is where the stack height of the shoe is. So a little bit of a difference there. Again, more stuff that's going on for the V5 versus the V4. And you know, kind of giving this a bit of a push. So it does have some flexibility versus the V4, and there's not really much flexibility, if any, at all. We're actually gonna move into the heel bevel here. I mean, taking a look at the heels of the shoe here, there's a lot more going on in the V5 than there is of the V4. And then looking down this way too, a lot more going on in the V5 versus the V4. Now, I believe there's a little bit more stack height going on of the V5 compared to the V4. In fact, this is the midsole here, and there has been a question of which one feels softer, the V4 or the V5. So I'm actually kind of comparing here. Let's see, V4. I'm gonna go with the V5. The V5 feels a lot softer to my fingers, and also they feel a lot softer to the step. If you take a look at the width of each forefoot, if you will, there's a lot more width going on, in my opinion, to the V5 compared to the V4. I mean, I'm looking straight down the shoe, and you can definitely see that there's a lot more going on the shoe in terms of the landing platform, the forefoot of the shoe versus the V4. So the width of my foot hasn't changed, but the width of the shoe has. And so again, I feel like I'm sinking down in a good way inside the V5 compared to the more narrow V4. And it's hilarious to say because I remember putting on the V4 and thinking, wow, all these things sinking down, it's wide, etc., etc., etc. And here's the V5 just completely blowing this thing out of the water. Now, is it better? No. I think it's like a great shoe, and there's almost so many differences here that this could be considered, you know, something entirely different. You know, yes, it's the More, yes, it's New Balance, but there's quite a few differences going on. Indeed, they didn't just change the upper, they didn't just change the midsole, they changed the whole shoe. Taking a look at the outsole, huge difference, people. Come on, what's going on? This is almost reminiscent of like a Hoka Clifton situation. Probably gonna ruffle some feathers with that, but as far as like kind of the pods here and there going on, call this a decoupled groove here in the back where it's just, you know, separated and you got some exposed midsole. There's so much more going on here, and I think I remember saying in the other video that I don't remember there being as deep of a, you know, decoupled groove going on there. I mean, I can see, whoop, there you are, there's the camera, and you know, it's a lot flatter as far as the V5 goes. Which one has more rubber? I guess the V4 has more rubber compared to the V5. You know, this has been quite the durable shoe. I put so many miles on this thing, several hundred, and it's still going strong. I don't know how the V5 is going to perform because, well, I just got the shoe and we shall see. Let's check the weight of the shoe. First thing we're going to do is the V5, and there it is on your screen, 12.2 ounces, and then the V4 is 11.9. So it looks like the V5 did gain a little bit weight, but then again, there's a little bit more midsole, and it just feels girthy and just a little bit more built in terms of the plushness, the filling of the material. You know, being over 10 ounces a piece, I'm not super duper worried about it because the use of this shoe, in my opinion, is going to be something more like recovery, long, slow distance, long runs, recovery runs, just easy, you know, not really making, you know, trying to make big times and everything like that. Just a good trainer, not an everyday trainer, but just something that you can really take out and be on feet for quite a few miles in a long period of time. Some sciencey stuff, I know that they changed the midsole a little bit and that it weighs a little bit less in the New Balance More V5, but the overall weight did increase in this shoe. Now, as far as which shoe feels better on foot, that is to be determined because I have not given this a full review yet. I just got the shoe, put it on the other night, but what this video is trying to accomplish is checking out the differences that I can tell with the V4 and the V5. I could put it up on paper and I can do a side-by-side that way, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to actually do a physical side-by-side comparison, going through all the things that I kind of look for. in a shoe. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did find value in it, please, please, please click like. That tells me and YouTube that you found value in the content of the video. I will put a link to both of these shoes down in the description. FYI, that will be an affiliate link, and if you were to choose to use that, we'll get a small commission. I truly appreciate you considering that. You can probably find the V4 on sale right now. As I was doing research, I did see that there is some sales going on for the V4. Not a bad shoe. This is 154 bucks, and I think I saw this for just over 100, but don't quote me on that. Anywho, I think it's a great strategy to consider a lineup and a shoe that you like and take a look at the previous year's model, especially if you're interested in saving money, because, you know, at the end of the day, if you're brand new to the lineup and you're brand new to that certain kind of shoe, the more in this instance, then what difference does it make that you get last year's model? I'm just saying, yes, I have both in my hand, but I'm just telling you as a tip to save a little bit of money. All right, everybody, I appreciate you. I will see you in the next one. Have a wonderful day.